All right, we're ready. Hey everyone, we're here with John.
Go Buckeyes.
And
Greg. Greg Starr.
Yay, we're here at
oldest
the
chess player.
yeah, we're here at the East Market, gonna go over a lesson. The Eagles did win. They hung on at the very end. So going to the
Chiefs made sure the Bengals didn't have a chance. But just
but it's good. And then tomorrow Ohio State plays, so we're excited. And special congratulations to John, who won the tournament today.
Thanks. It's been a while. Thank you.
4-0. Woohoo!
Got that $20 bonus for winning the whole thing. That's the wrong
There
thing
we
here.
go.
It's a family show.
It is a
That was
He's being good, which is surprising.
That's very surprising.
We'll say that.
All right.
All right, so we're here for the lesson today.
So I'm just going to dive right in.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, my chess has been in a slump, and I've been losing since sometime late last year. I won like 75 to 80% of the East Markets and the Sunday tournaments, and these guys are nice enough to let me do that. But the competition can be tough sometimes, and I really appreciate all the people that play, and I really come up here a lot of time to spend time with Greg, who I've known for a long time.
Long time.
So,
Buys me drinks too, so it's okay.
when I win.
We're community here,
When
you
he
know?
wins, yeah.
Now am I.
All right. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
I watched a player on YouTube who has a channel called Hanging Pawns. And they were going over something that is called the Tarrasch defense, which some players call the trash defense, that Kasparov revitalized in the 80s to be a real weapon at the super level, right? The super level is the highest level of chess. And what happens is that even the supers don't know what to do when all of a sudden black takes back the pawn on d4 instead of playing what's normally played. So pretty standard play for white is to just fianchetto. I like to call it fianchetto. You'll hear Nakamura say fianchetto, and you'll hear Hans Moltov pronounce it a little different.
We got to talk to Jeff. He's in an Italian word.
Yeah,
He'll
he would know. So
Yeah.
it's nice that this Jeff's channel, he's got this great YouTube channel on English.
Diverses
Yes.
and Fluent American.
Yes. So here's the thing. The idea is that you go back and you start looking at the games. You very quickly realize the players that know it are playing the correct variation. So in the Tarrasch, when you play pawn takes pawn on d5, and all of a sudden black takes back on d4, the idea is that there's this queen a4 check, right? And you get out of the way, and then when you take it back, you don't have the same problems that you run into when you don't play that line. That didn't come up in the video with the Hanging Pawns guy, but at the same time, I've known this for years. But at the same time, I have to remember it as though I play it regularly, and that doesn't happen. So at the board, it's important that you spend time on recalling not just your preparation, but other games that players have played, and also games that you've learned and played as well. So if you don't do that, if you don't have a database in your head, then you can't play correct chess. It's really simple. And one of the things that most grandmasters and Russian trainers will tell people is you need at least a database of 300 games, right? And it just so happens that my favorite book, which is by Jakub Maystadt, who's this old Russian trainer, has 300 games in it. It's Catastrophe in the Opening. It's out of print. It's not the one that's by Palatnik or the American or whoever wrote the American version. But it's a terrific book. And basically all the stuff that's in there is, and everything that you would need is in Laszlo Polgar's chess. Right, so, and Hans has a few games in there. Hans has 2 games in there. I would say 3, and he always corrects me. It's like, I have 2 games in there. But either way, having a game in there is very honorable. So shout out to Hans Moltov, who's a terrific person and a terrific chess player for many years. So, anyway, so in my game against Dave, we got to this position where I'm eyeballing this idea of him playing knight c4 and me playing a move, this is queen f7, pinning the knight to the queen. And he's missing this idea. He's missing this concept. He's thinking that he's going to be able to reorganize his pieces. But the other thing that I'm looking at is how I'm going to do my pawn break and whether or not he's going to play king g2 or king h2. And I'm looking at it earlier than this position. And, a lot of players don't believe that, hey, a player can look 10 moves ahead. You can. You can look 10. The problem is I was playing this kid years ago. Oh, I have no idea what that was. Probably a Long Island. You want to give me one?
I didn't. Sorry, yeah.
I asked you. Yeah, appreciate it. So here's the thing. In these positions, certain pieces have certain qualities. And the quality of the bishop is always long range, never short range, and very one-sided. It's not going to do anything for you on the opposite color. So you better have a plan. You better not have all your pawns on the same color unless they're in a position where you just need to protect them. And that happens in the end game. You have to know the difference. So in this position, you can see the holes for the knight, right? The problem is the queen is awkward. And if you really look at the position, this position is defined by one piece, the backward pawn on c2. Black has a space advantage. We always talk about what?
Space, time, material, development.
The 4 principles of chess. You're always trading any of those things for another. And in this game is no different. So I have traded a little bit of my king security for a space advantage. And he has traded for dynamic play and being able to have these holes to put his knight in. The problem is that if he sticks his knight in a hole and I just pin it, I'm threatening to win on the spot with the pin. Right? Now Dave's good enough that that's not going to happen, but he didn't miss the concept because I used it for a later position.
What if he moved his knight over here?
Yeah, and again, I think the issue that we're having with his position is that I first play prophylaxis.
Okay, so he was here.
Yep.
Okay, so here, and then you moved here?
Well, I moved there earlier, but
Okay.
if you had played here, I'd have played my king.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure, yeah. But wait. Oh, okay, because the bishop is protecting this square.
That's
So
why
he doesn't have anywhere.
that is really the purpose of me moving the bishop back earlier.
I see.
It's because I knew this knight was going to come here, and
Yeah.
so I've never been good at prophylaxis chess. I like to win. I take chances. I like the initiative, right? But if you learn how not to lose, it's a lot less painful playing chess. And people don't think there's pain in chess. Chess is a martial art. It hurts. It hurts us sometimes. So yeah, bishop f8 covers the square. I played it earlier. We did get to a position similar, but he ended up playing here, right? And look, it's one of those things where you see this, the knight's covering this hole.
Yeah.
So even though the knight has these light squares, it also is responsible for these weaknesses.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So, you know, we got to the position where he went for it, right? So he tried to play the knight move. Let me think of what happened first. Let me look at my score sheet.
Okay.
While we're on it. I'm not just going to bail out on Greg. He's been patiently watching this game. I'm sure he wants to see the end.
Was this your last game that you played?
You know, this is the third round, I believe.
Okay.
Third round in these tournaments often decide because you have the 2 highest rated players playing each other if they have a perfect score.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll draw and then beat the last one. Hey, appreciate that. He knows this is supposed to be a bomb, right? It's supposed to be a bomb.
You know what? He's from Texas, bro.
He never does that to me. That's weird.
Maybe you didn't know it was you.
You want me to grab a line for you?
No.
Okay.
It's always good when he makes it.
Well, I was watching his board.
Look at
too.
Greg.
Yeah.
Look at Greg.
Greg's, never mind. 3 sheets to the wind, as they used to say in the old days.
What's funny is that, like, I play chess.
Yeah.
I ain't even worry about a grid. I'm just running the move.
Yeah.
Right?
Just keep going.
Yes. Oh, it was like D3. Like, send it.
Some people know, John, Greg, do you know this? Or like I say a square and you know what color it is, like F4.
Right.
Black,
Right.
Yeah.
It was like Battleship.
Yeah, exactly. There's a relationship there.
Yes, sir.
Fusion coordinates are the bomb.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's good. My daddy was still living here.
Oh, okay, you could do that.
That's what I learned.
Oh.
I'm so old, they didn't have
So like,
alphabet in the U.S.
what is it like? Bishop, king, bishop, 3.
King, bishop, queen, yeah, king, knight, king, rook, queen, rook.
Nice.
So I think rook d1's played, king g7's played, and then knight c4's played.
Like
Okay.
that. Study.
That's how you get good. Yeah.
You said you were going to finish if you did that.
Yeah. Did you come here?
You did, but you didn't, didn't you?
What did you say? I was Army. I was Brown University of Fun.
Right, baby.
All right. We got. What did you say? What did you suggest? The pin. So even though I liked the idea of the pin, I needed to be able to play it in a way where I was getting to the key square. So I was eyeballing the square. So let me see. You said queen. I'm sorry. The last move was knight c4, correct?
Yeah.
So I believe I played here.
Attack it.
There we go. So now what you do is you give your opponent a chance to make a mistake. You always try. Does he have two weaknesses? Yes. He's got this weakness, he's got this weakness, and he's got the potential pin.
Yeah.
He has to decide. Here is much better, I think.
Okay.
But then I can still play a couple of checks and get what I want, which is pawn push. And that's what we talked about after the game.
Wait, but wouldn't this, like, you do this immediately? And then he does something and then push.
Exactly.
Alright.
So he played here,
Okay.
and what did I do?
Still play here?
I played queen f5.
Okay.
And why did I play queen f5? So then he played king over anyway, and this is what he missed. So now I'm breaking through on the king side with queen check, and then pawn push and the bishop coming in, right? And the weakness here, and the king being exposed. And this is stuff that I was looking at back when I was talking about the pin on the knight and playing queen f7 potentially, but I realized that there are other key squares.
Yeah.
So then you have to calculate all those variations, and you have to say, okay, this is how to win the game. And this is how to win the game. It's an expert like Dave. We've known each other 30 years.
Do you think back, like, even like 3 or 4 moves ago, that you still had a pretty good advantage? Or do you think it was pretty?
I knew I was winning this one.
Okay.
Whether or not I have a winning advantage,
Yeah.
for you to decide. But against a human player, I'm winning this game.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I'm winning isn't because what you win, it's because I understand it better than my opponent.
Got it.
So, and it's not just a feeling. It's like, okay, this is how you win a chess game.
Yeah.
So, basically, I believe that when you get to this point, he realized that this check was devastating.
Yeah.
All right, so pawn push. You just have pawn takes pawn.
Okay.
Rook takes pawn.
Right.
Rook takes rook. Queen takes rook check. And he played f4. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
I don't think he played, maybe he didn't play f3. Rook takes rook. Because f3 would lead to check.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember exactly how it went down. I'm missing something, obviously. King d2, e4, pawn takes pawn, rook takes pawn, f3, rook takes rook. Oh, okay. So this is crucial.
Okay.
So yeah, let's back it up a little bit. So Dave's not a bad player. So when we get to the point where it's pawn push, right, and pawn takes pawn,
Yeah.
and rook takes,
Oh, then he played
He
out.
played out.
I see. Yeah.
and the intermezzo is important because then he's not losing to what we were just talking
Yeah.
about. Rook takes rook, rook takes rook, and block to play and win. Play it. If you're confident, play it. Okay. Now my opponent could have resigned me.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've known each other a long time. We've won games that are lost like this many times.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to allow counterplay. And in this position, there is no counterplay.
Yeah.
So We had to keep rotation and everything. We know the game's over, but he still has to try to swindle me. And queen d5. And he just plays like queen d2, I think. I think I just take it.
Yeah.
Queen takes knight. I think they just look up.
Yeah.
Takes. Yeah. And then I believe he played king f1. Let me look at the score sheet. Just to make Greg happy, so I'm not doing it from memory. Right.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
very standard, just controlling the king.
Yep.
Earlier, Greg had a game where he could have won easily, but he decided to play the hard way. Instead of opposition with the king and pushing the pawn, he decided to trade all the pieces off, which still wins.
What I usually do.
But in most positions, you need to consider controlling the king and opposition in endgames. So, here we go.
Okay.
We got king f1. And then whatever he's going to try here. I don't know if he's just tried like trying to push or something. It doesn't really matter, Jack, to be honest. Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's see. Rook e5. Actually, whose move is it here? It was-
White. You just move it.
Okay. So, e6. Let me find on score sheet. Oh yeah. I decided not to allow counterplay. I think it went something like this. He did not take it. Taking the pawn doesn't do anything, so
Well, he's got, all right.
let's just say it's like this. Let's fix the position. So this b pawn's hanging. He played a3. All right, so this is the problem. This is hanging through. So taking the pawn is this. All right. Slight change. Rook e5, rook c7. Rook c7 kills the counterplay. So why would I play rook c7 and give up the pawn? Why did I do that? Why would Greg start, give up a pawn, and play rook c7 in this position?
Well, if he takes it, that pawn goes right away.
Yeah, that's one of the key points. But also, there's no counterplay anymore. I'm just up a piece, and it's equal material for pawns, but I have an extra bishop. So it's no big deal if he takes the pawn. It's easier. A computer might want to sit there and say, "Hey, I'll protect the pawn, push it, whatever, and then play a5." Human beings like, you know what? I can just get rid of counterplay and play rook c7. There's no checks, and in the long run, I win the game.
Yeah.
Greg Stark style.
Yes.
He loves in games.
Yes.
Could you have played instead of moving the rook back? Or were you here?
I was there.
Oh, no, never mind.
Yeah, I could have played the rook here. You're right.
Well,
So
I was
that's another
thinking
concept.
if your rook was here, then move the king over and then stop.
Yeah. Yes.
But
But then
you're-
there are checks. So you
I see.
always have to be conscientious of
Yeah.
checks first, right? That's the rule number one in any chess
Yeah.
position. Anytime you start with checks. So that's just how it works for everybody all the time.
Let's
Checks.
protect.
All right. So my opponent's smart, so he knows he doesn't want the pawn. Right? Let's get to this idea. And I'm still killing counterplay. I'm just saying, hey, no, you're not going to check me. And I'm going to, come get your pawn,
He
right?
said counterplay more than once. You know how you say that in German for chess?
What?
Gegenspiel.
Gegenspiel.
You know that, right?
Oh, yeah, I know Zwischenzug and Zugzwang.
That's 3 words so far. And Luft, that's 4.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Luft. Yeah.
Well, you should explain Luft if they don't. Well, it means air
So, yeah, I mean, in chess, you need to give your king some air so he doesn't get checkmated and smothered.
on the back rank.
In the back rank especially, but any position, the king needs to have an out. So the reason why you have castling is because the king was expected to have an extra look because they thought, well, he should at least be able to jump like a knight at the end to get out of trouble. And that's how castling became castling. And otherwise, you wouldn't have castling in chess.
It speeded the game up too.
It speeded the game up, and you got away from the old Shatranj and the old Persian forms of chess,
Yeah.
where you didn't have these dynamic queens and things moved one square at a time. You had a vizier instead of a queen. The queen comes from the powerful queen of England, right? So you had this idea of a more powerful queen, and that's when the queen gained, instead of moving one square at a time, which was the old advisor role going back to ancient chess, to many squares at that point. And that's how you became the Queen Elizabeth version of Queen, the Western chess. And that's when chess became Western instead of Eastern.
About 500 or 600 years ago.
Yes, exactly.
Nothing to it.
Wait, I have a question. Wouldn't castling slow down the game? Because if it was in the open, it'd be easier to checkmate him.
No, because think about it differently. I mean,
Okay.
talk about this. What is the other purpose of castling? It's to bring what?
The road.
Closer to the center of the game.
Okay, yeah,
So you
yeah.
do speed up the
I see.
game.
Fair.
Dynamic play. Yes.
Remember, the pawns couldn't move two squares in the old days either.
Correct. And players used to take 3 days to make a move.
They were losing.
Yeah, they were all losing moves. The computer's proving that, except for Tau.
Well, nobody. All right. Nobody.
All right, so
Yes.
so my opponent knows, hey, you know. So we get to this idea, right?
We're back in.
I believe he moved back. Let me check. So I played H5, right, at some point. Not sure. I remember him playing this, right? And let's just face it, like, there's not much you can do here.
You're up a piece.
Yeah. We end up basically in this position,
Okay.
right? And he checks me.
Yep.
And I simply block because I'm threatening to take, and I'll be up a piece in the end game. And you know, when he comes back, now my pawn's protected, right? So then when he moves, it's worse than before, right? So this is the problem. He still tries it. There's no hurt in trying in chess, right? But it's just a lost position.
Yeah. Then you can hear some chat. I guess you could, but then you could try to trade stuff off.
Yeah. So we get to this idea very quickly, right? Right. But I think what happened was he checked me. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
And you know, I just simply played up. And whatever happens. Like there's pawn takes. And the reason why I played A5 is because now that my pawn's protected, there's no stopping my bishop from coming here.
Yeah.
And then there's no stopping for my rook either getting to this file or this file. And the game is technically over. And my opponent knows that, but he still has to try. You know, we've known each other a long time.
And now I was taught how to play chess.
But either way, he doesn't resign against me ever. We're friends.
It's,
So his story against like Wojo, where Wojo resigned for him, is outstanding. Go ahead, Greg. You gotta tell that one.
Okay.
No, growing up in Cleveland 60 years ago, playing Central and Eastern Europeans, there was a lot of politeness in chess. You drop a piece with no compensation,
Yeah.
you resign. You don't make the other guy sit there for another hour. You just say, well, I resign. That's all. Well, it hurts, but that's what you do.
But you don't do that.
Nowadays it's different.
Well, nowadays, especially with the children, it's much different. They're
So the children are taught by their GM and IM coaches to play it out so you can see the technique of the other player, or hopeful that you get a stalemate or a draw somehow.
Time play tight on time pressure, especially like
Well, with increment, there is no such thing as time pressure anymore, to be honest. We play 10-second increment here at the Columbus Chess Club.
yes.
Central National Chess Club. Thanks to Lou Frisco.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lou Frisco.
I pushed him into it. By
Thank
the way.
goodness, because I've been pushing you guys for 5 years. I tried to get these guys to go to Increment, and they finally did it.
That's
And then
really
they
like,
realized that for old people like us, Increment's much better.
A huge amount of stress out of playing it.
When I started losing toward the end of last year, I started just thinking, hey, I'm just old. That's not really what it was. And the game with the hanging pawns, when I realized these people don't know this, Thomas, the guy who does that channel, I think I could take him. He's a good player, though. What I realized is that some things I just do know from having been exposed to and loving chess and studying chess that other players just don't know. And there was this gentleman named Leonid Bash. Shout out to Leonid, friends on Facebook. He's outstanding. Tied 4 and won the 1983 World Open. And then, I wish they hadn't snubbed him to get on the Olympia team. He should have been on there and he would have gone on the GM, but instead they took away his opportunity. Phenomenal player. But playing with him at Highland in Cincinnati, down with Hans Moltov and some other players, the classical training for professional players is different. So when an IM and a GM see a certain pawn structure and a certain setup, they know it's just winning. And they also know that all players basically need to be taught to the 2350 level of FIDE, which is about 2,500 USCF. You can actually just learn that. And Zellner is probably the best example we have of that.
The late Alex Zellner, by the way.
Yeah, whose daughter Zoe is probably still playing chess somewhere. And this man apparently at some point in his career just decided he was tired of losing to class players.
You're right, because he was a high-rated expert, but he couldn't get the master.
And he had a bunch of GM friends. He spent some time with them, and he learned how not to do anything other than become an IM. And later in life, too.
wow.
Yes.
So if you think that this stuff is just us sitting around, with a waste of time.
No, he's buying me drinks. It's okay.
Chess,
Well covered.
chess is probably the most hopeful game because it's empirical, it's got perfect information, and anybody can do it. Anybody can learn within reason.
The concept of writing down the moves, there's no other sport I can think of other than checkers.
So it's a race between our friend Kathy and our friend Calvin to see who makes expert first. I'm betting on Kathy.
We got
No, I
tournament coming
love
up.
Calvin.
Calvin,
There
We
you go.
do. We might be practicing tonight or tomorrow for
that's funny.
We actually got to this position very quickly. And the pawn's sitting on D2, the bishop's guarding it, and there's really no way to stop a rook from coming to a file and coming down.
Did he resign?
He did resign.
Oh, good for you, David.
And David will win one of these things soon enough. It's been a dry spell for me. I'm used to winning all of them, not gonna lie. Okay. Except for 1 or 2, right? But instead I've lost like so many.
but not tonight. That was
No, not
But my
today.
focus has been on other things. And it was awesome to win because the kid and I played in the last round. I was really upset the first time I beat him. And I took offense to that. Because when players think like they should never lose to me, like I've drawn grandmasters. It's not like I'm not a good player, but at the same time, there's no reason why I should be insulted by somebody being upset to losing to me when I played a good game and they played a good game. Like when I play a good game and my opponent plays a good game and I lose, I'm happy with that. When I play a bad game and I lose, deep down and on the inside, I'm a sore loser, but I will hopefully never show it to you because I have respect for you and I know as a player you deserve to win. So that's very important. Sportsmanship is being lost. We want to keep it in the game.
Yes, I don't know how. Yes, that's what I grew up learning. Also, by the way, a good game from both sides, pretty much at any level, should be a draw.
Yeah, a perfect game by both sides will be a draw.
There's no such thing as a perfect game.
Tell that to Bobby Fischer.
Except, right. Well, he was not all there. He had screws loose. Yes.
No, we're talking about later on. Here's the best part. There's a game with Bobby Fischer, even analyzing with the computer, where they're not sure where his opponent went wrong, and he still won.
Yes, I can see that. He was.
So between Paul Morphy,
Yeah.
Adolf Anderson,
Yeah.
Bobby Fischer,
Yeah.
Gary Kasparov, Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah.
We know who kind of the greatest players, like the top 5. We don't know which one's absolutely the best because they played in different eras. Carlsen has the best argument right now, which is that he's just basically dominated a whole decade of players that should have been able to at least done something against him. Whereas Kasparov had kept getting pushed by Karpov, nobody even came close to pushing Carlsen. He was dominant. The same way Morphy was dominant, except for Morphy when he played Anderson. Anderson was 50 years old, and Anderson still took a couple games off of him. So
Keep in mind that Morphy had a fetish for women's shoes, I believe.
who?
Paul Morphy. You didn't know that?
No. I knew he was a spy for the Confederacy or something like that, but that was all
Well,
rumors. All rumors.
Okay, gentlemen.
I mean, we obviously know a little bit about chess history. We both love chess. I don't need to hear about Herbert Hoover and his fetish for shoes in the FBI.
No, yeah, Paul Morphy. Yeah.
But Paul Morphy, was on the wrong side of the Confederacy supposedly, but Alekin, world champion, right? Brilliant man. I think he would have been like the 10th champion. But anyway, he was supposedly collaborating with Nazis. He was not. He was trying to save his own life and was basically a German stuck in Nazi Germany. He survived. They're not sure if the Russians killed him or if he choked on a piece of steak. Chances are the Russians killed him. Look, this stuff happens in chess. They had a hypnotist come to the games between Karpov and Korchnoi.
Oh, that's right.
He sat in the front row.
Yep.
And while they were playing, they assaulted Korchnoi's son in Russian prison and told him about it just to affect his play versus Karpov. Because he defected to France and turned it, So look, this chess, typically what happens with chess, and people don't realize this, the country that dominates chess at the world level, a lot of time rules the world. In the 50s, the U.S. was mostly dominant at chess. We may have had the world champion, but we had the best Olympiad team, and we were very dominant with Denker and a whole bunch of other guys. The Russians in the 60s started to take over.
Yeah.
Papanik, they took computer science to another level. The 70s got messed up, and they realized they were wrong because Bobby Fischer just single-handedly for the U.S.
Yes.
proved that the Russian ideas were wrong, and it messed them all up so much that you eventually had to collapse. If you don't think that Bobby Fischer didn't help the collapse of the Soviet Union, you don't understand how it worked, the history of the world. Look, there's this guy named Claire Patterson who saved the world. Nobody's ever heard of him. They think he had a girl's name. Claire used to be a boy's name, and Claire Patterson helped save the world. All these little things that happen in the world by these individuals, Bobby Fischer, Claire Patterson, whoever else, are very significant. So when I sit there and think about chess as just a game, I'm always mistaken.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's just how it works. Like, the things that you underestimate are often most important. It used to be that for some reason people thought that if they didn't see it, it couldn't hurt them. And then they learned about germs because a scientist realized that he could take a piece of glass and turn it into magnifying glass. Now, this scientist didn't get along very well with Newton, but he was the first person to see microbes under a microscope. He stole that glass from a glassmaker, by the way. So he wasn't the nicest guy, but he's very famous in history. The way that it works is you have all these connections. And we were talking earlier about Cartesian coordinates because somebody brought up the game Battleship. Well, chess, you always are playing Battleship. And Kathy was talking about being able to know the
Color of a square just by getting the.
And the very talented Alex Markovitz, my first student, who went on to study with Kreidnoff, who went on to do better things at MIT and is a brilliant computer programmer who's, his significant other is even more brilliant as a top AI scientist. Shout out to her as well. Let's face it, like, Cartesian coordinates are so important because you have the memory palace, and that's the part of chess that will help you with anything in life. So when, if I sit there and say, hey, Kathy, don't look at the board, but tell me what color is E6, Alex didn't know. He was a prodigy. He played blindfold chess so brilliantly, he didn't have to know the color of the pieces. And that's brilliant. But when I'm teaching somebody and they're not as brilliant as somebody like Alex, I need to get them to be able to recall it. They need to tell me what color because I'm trying to teach them Cartesian coordinates so they can have a memory palace for chess and memorize a bunch of games and get better. So if I want them to know Hervé Lumen 1920 or 1921, whatever year it was, or 1929, that game, was so brilliant. But what you learn is that not only was Hervé a legitimate world champion who eventually lost his title back to Alekin because the honorable enough to give him a rematch.
He sobered up.
Yeah, Alekin sobered up. But
True
Uwe
story.
Herber was absolutely brilliant. And, one-off champion, one-year champion. But some of his games are so instructional that they made it into Catastrophe in the Open by Yakimusa. This lesson has been longer and drawn out because obviously I have my friend Greg and I'm talking too much. But when you put it all together, the stuff that happened in my game is related to the stuff that I've learned over the years from the better players. And the idea that you always stand on the shoulders of giants is true for any modern man. We're doing amazing things that we do today that are ordinary would have been considered extraordinary hundreds of years ago.
Yes.
So don't underestimate your chess. Don't take it for granted. And remember the four principles of chess. If you stick with the four principles and you stick with Capablanca's, I played chess, correctly one move at a time, then you'll always come back to the four principles. And that's all I got.
Any last words of wisdom, Greg?
I'd embarrass myself. No, thank you very
I took a risk by
Absolutely.
asking.
Never embarrass yourself.
All right, thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Thank you, John. Thank
Thanks
you,
to
Greg.
Greg for 10 years of serving Ohio Chess as the president and also as master for Ohio Chess. He doesn't get enough credit.
Okay.
I'll tell my
Thanks
wife
for the
who said that.
lesson.
All right.
Bye. All right,